Hello everybody, I'm Mike the Man. Welcome to my channel. I have just listened a little bit to the interview, the live stream by Seth Rogers, and you can see him on YouTube under Seth R. Rogers, Sebastian's father, and it's very resetting for me, very humbling having watched this, because I haven't seen anything from Seth in about 10 months, and the reason is I didn't pay attention to his statements. I did in the very beginning. There wasn't one red flag, there was nothing. There was nothing that indicated I should pay more attention to any of his statements. The one thing that, of course, I paid attention to was when he said, I think Katie may have over-medicated him and Sebastian may have overdosed. So that he thought it could be that Sebastian passed away because his mother gave him too much sleep aid, and he talked about his mother regularly giving him sleep aid at night. And as I have pointed out before, that makes perfect sense when she goes on and on about how much food he had to eat, how he gets overstimulated. You can watch my video called Who Caused Sebastian Rogers' Disappearance, where I believe that the 10 p.m. thud came from experiential memory because Sebastian likely tossed and turned in his bed and fell out. And she uses language such as, don't let his face fall to the bottom, when she talks about him being forgotten, which he isn't. Don't let his face fall to the bottom of the feet. That comes also from experiential memory, in my opinion. So Seth has early on expressed suspicions and the possibility Sebastian is no longer with us. If you saw the video, the recent special, the recent interview by Katie, Sebastian is featured, Seth is featured briefly, and he talked about when you stop searching, that's when you stop hope, or something like that. So hope, of course, is now the ongoing theme for him, because even though he has his suspicions, he needs to cling on to the hope. And it is a natural thing for parents. It's even natural for mothers of missing children 20 years later still not being able to leave the house, to move away from the house, from the neighborhood where the child was last seen, because they think maybe he's going to show up. Who knows? I have to hold on to this. And what is also interesting is that all the things I have pointed out that Katie didn't say, the latest being that after a year she has never reached out to a potential kidnapper. Never once. She has never said, if you have my son, please let him go. And sure enough, shortly into that stream, that live stream, that's now a video by Seth Rogers, that's exactly what he says. If you have my son, please let him go. Please drop him off at the nearest phone so he can tell somebody, my name is Sebastian Rogers, please call 911 for me. And it is, of course, something he has to hold on to. And the memory, the last memory of having your child should be imprinted into a parent's mind and heart. And he talked about how he keeps reliving every memory he had with him, with Sebastian. And when you listen to Katie, she talks about the last time I saw my son was when he went to bed. But she moves on immediately to, and then I went to sleep. Shortly after was in her first televised interview, and That's what she said. Shortly after that, I went to bed. Later it became around midnight, and she became very clear about that. Several times she wanted to make sure that the time frame between midnight and 6 a.m. nothing could have happened from her, because she was of course asleep. That's her only alibi. Chris's only alibi is the phone. His phone is his alibi. So you may want to revisit the investigation from the very beginning. I have asked back then, could it have been that Chris Proudfoot actually left his home in Memphis? He drove down and then drove back to be at work at what, 7 a.m. or something like that? Because there are conflicting statements. When did he show up for work? As I have mentioned, this was treated like a runaway case from the very beginning. Did the police fail to investigate important areas? Did they check the alibi? How well did they check it? I don't know. But obviously it seems like they are dragging their feet and probably don't want to be embarrassed, because, and may I say, so many of these missing children's cases, so many of the children that get reported missing wind up being runaways. And the police really didn't know too much about Sebastian, too much about the background. They didn't at the moment, they didn't at the time when they called the non-emergency line. And again, it was a non-emergency line. And they probably asked them, hey, can you help us find our son? And the police may have not thought much of it. So yes, of course, there can be incompetence. It can also be that with all the cases, with all of the children being reported missing, and 2 days later they wind up walking back through the door because they snuck out at night to hang out with friends, drinking, or meet up with the girlfriend or whatever. Though we cannot be too harsh with law enforcement if there isn't any visible evidence that foul play was involved. But of course they failed to look deeper into it. And now, what are they doing? What are they doing? They're telling you they don't know, they have no evidence. So all of you who think that the case is now closing and an arrest should be made shortly, yeah, I think I think they suspect the Proudfoots. Of course I think that, but they may just be overwhelmed and say, listen, unless we have a witness or something, that case cannot go to trial. And if it does, it cannot be won. It's hard to convict. I'm pretty sure that as time goes by, things will change. Even though Katie seems to be having fun with this, just fooling people, which I think she has been doing her whole life. And now what we have is one grieving parent who also pointed out that it made him sick to watch their interview, the Proudfoot's interview. He mentioned that some people say, I hope Sebastian's spirit will hunt Katie forever, and he said, I want nothing to do with this kind of language, I just want my son back. Which is pretty much what I have said before in my recent video, because the anger will come later, but when your child is missing, the focus is on bringing the child back. When the child is being returned and you realize the child experienced significant trauma, then of course the anger will come, and thoughts of revenge may kick in. But not when the only priority is to get your child back, and that seems to be the only priority of his. So if you want to realize what a real grieving parent looks like, the recent live stream by Seth Rogers it's a night and day difference. And he talked very little. He talked about how he is suffering, but that's not the important thing. He complained about the Proudfoots talking about what they are going through, but that is exactly what I was talking about and ending my last video with. What they are going through. It's not important what they are going through. He said it's not about me either. It's about what is my son experiencing right now. Is he all the things that you expect? Seth said all of them. Is he being clothed? Is he being fed? Does he have everything that he needs? If you have the hope and the expectation and think your son may be alive, then you are worried about the well-being. When the McCains, for example, their language indicated that the death of their daughter has already been processed, so the maternal instinct was absent from Maddie's mother's statements, indicating that there was no more way to help her daughter. So these are things that we need to pay attention to and cannot ever overlook. And what I have ended my last video with was, we are going to find a way to recover from this. This, very close to home. We, in connection also with the sentences before that, that's Katie Proudfoot and Chris Proudfoot. They feel the need to recover from this. What is Sebastian going through? What kind of trauma is he experiencing? What about what he will have to deal with? What about him? There is no concern. It's all about them. And this seems to have been an ongoing conversation within their own relationship. Because when Sebastian was gone, pretty quickly after that, they went down to Mississippi to the campground to enjoy their newly found freedom. But they soon realized that they will never be free. Never. Because people care more than Chris, could have ever anticipated. Remember what the neighbor overheard him say to Sebastian, how he was being treated. He sprayed him with a water hose and yelled at Katie, "Get your little retard in the house." Chris could have never imagined in his wildest dreams that Sebastian would be searched for and missed by so many people. And it baffles him. On the one hand, he enjoys being in the center. He loves to talk. Katie knows it. And Chris, if you're listening, Katie is using you. But you are the catalyst. Katie is exploring your desire to boast, because it takes the heat off of her. So, you proudly accept that role of the bad guy because you feel like you have something to preach to the rest of the world. And so that's the perfect person to hide behind for a sociopath who wants to say very little, who needs time to compose herself again and again, who all the time needs the break and get back to script. I'm sure that she scripted herself very well, but when it comes time for an interview, that can only go so much. And the problem is often when experiential memory interrupts her own script. And that is going to happen in what I'm going to discuss right now. So we're going to find a way to recover from this. And okay, now the switch. I'm going to watch him grow into a young man. That's a script. After the that is the time when you want to watch out for a script that is being cited, being spoken, to keep it simpler. I'm going to watch him, and by the way, the double and that's when she works herself up. Many times she uses the same word twice. And I think that is when the thoughts start to kick in. Suddenly it comes to her, she remembers what she is about to say, or should say, what she has thought about saying much earlier. And hold on, hold on, as it's coming. A little more break. I'm going to watch him grow into a young man, and live the life that he deserves to have. Really. Has he lived the life that he deserved to have in your house when you let him be beaten repeatedly to the point where CPS had to be called several times, beaten with the belt? And Chris, you will never get away with this, because look, if you hurt somebody who stole your wife from you, and you do your time, well, people can get to the point where they say, okay, he did his time, now let him be. I don't know how I would react in a situation like that if my wife cheated on me. And many people who are non-criminals, even church-going people and such, will tell you there are certain situations that, yes, there needs to be punishment, severe punishment, but to be honest with you, I don't know how I would react in a situation like that. Not that murder is okay, but people will get to the point where they say, wow, let's just let it be after many years of imprisonment. But that's not the case when it comes to hurting a child, Christopher Proudfoot, because even abusers of children have been abused as children, and when you proudly boast about beating Sebastian whack with that belt, they remember what they went through as children, and they don't like it. And a lot of these people are in prison. The percentage of abuse victims from early childhood in prison is, I think, significantly higher than in the general public, which is why child abusers get a really hard time in prison, Chris. They have a very hard time, because that is the one sin that people cannot easily forgive. When you hurt a child, whichever way, that will not be forgotten, and that will haunt you for a very long time to come. And you are the weakest link. That's what somebody also pointed out. The weakest link will sing. I have two possibilities how this will end. Either it'll be a cold case forever, or Chris is going to turn witness against Katie Proudfoot. And Chris, anything that you will do wrong in the future, anything they can find out about you, they will get right to it and say, we can give you the maximum, or you can finally talk. And so Chris is the tough guy on these shows, on these lives. He is mentally significantly weaker than Katie. And he will break. And you have probably seen it in your childhood when bullies break. All of a sudden there is nothing there when they have come to the end of their wisdom. And I think he's very close to that, judging by his recent interviews. And yeah, let's just continue with this. Live the life that he deserves to have. Also, she is appealing once again to everybody, and she has scripted herself in a way that she thinks people will be on her side. She's looking up phrases, maybe. Maybe she's listening to other people's interviews. What should a grieving mother sound like? You know? Oh, okay, let me copy this from her, and this from her, and that from him. And then if I put it all together, then maybe I will sound just as convincing. But again, listen to Seth Rogers. And Tony Mattis was on there as well. It was a good setup. Jennifer Coffin-Daffra as well. And you can listen to how a person who has nothing to hide is appealing for the return of his son, the only priority. The last places he's been with him, the last memories, all of the memories. Even Candace Wells at the waterhole had this moment. And I've said it before, I think that was actually an accident that led to Summer Wells no longer being with us. Of course, the transporting of the body, getting rid of it, there's, criminal guilt possibly involved. But not the crime of taking the child's life, where you don't see Katie pause at any time when she talks about the last time she brought him or he went to bed, and she immediately goes into the alibi, so-called alibi of sleeping, and then doubles down with when I woke him up for school, that's when he wasn't there, or he wasn't there, and later on in another interview said, that's when he wasn't there, that's when I couldn't find him, or something like that. It was like that, the distancing language, and pointing out that between midnight and 6, don't even bother. There is nothing I could have done. So she says, she's expecting people to agree with her in order to move on. You have to accept that, live the life that he deserves to have. It's something nice to say that she picked up somewhere. And it's in contrast with a lot of other wordings of hers. Oh God, I don't even know. That was the question. What would you say to him if he was about to walk through the door? Oh God, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to speak. You see, oh God, she always invokes deity. And that is also a sign. Patsy Ramsey was very good with that as well. That's when you have to notice what they're saying. I'll probably bulldoze him down with hugs. Okay, I have talked about this previously. This needs to be also remembered. What significance could be behind that term, the choice of words? We choose our words for a reason, and in such moments like being interviewed, you have the camera on you, you have that guilty knowledge. So the script may be absolutely perfect in your mind, but the experiential memory will not go away. And the wonderful thing about this interview, the reason it is so filled with significant statements, is the fact that this lady absolutely believes the Proudfoots. And she encourages them. She actually feels like her role should be to comfort them. When she says, he's coming, you think he's coming home, right? And she takes a longer break looking at them. And Chris goes like, he nods a little bit. She is fully in support. They can never say, and that's what they love to say, these people are haters and those people are that, and no, she doesn't give them too much of a chance to even talk about people who are onto them. So there is not going to be an excuse like I had to defend myself. She is basically left there to make her long statements. Nobody's stopping her. And she has a hard time stopping herself. A very hard time. Oh God, I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to speak. I'll probably bulldoze him down with hugs. Really, okay, the bulldozer theme, yeah. Construction sites. Let's keep this in mind, okay? Honestly, yeah, right. So, what is it now that you want me to believe you're honest with? When I picture that, him walking through the door, not this, but that, also distancing. My child is walking in, I picture this, would I think be much more appropriate because it would be as close to home as possible. I just picture being able to hug him, to hold him, to smell him. I mean, I just to be able to hear his voice and hear his laugh. Smell him. Do you remember? Oh yeah, here's what I was gonna get to. If you guys listen to all of these hate channels that talk about Seth Rogers without any basis, attacking him, you, how can I say this nicely? You are the reason these channels are up. So the one thing that I have been getting very tired of was people who actually try to tell me what is being said when it's not significant. There are people like Lauren who listen through Chris's and Katie's appearances on these shows and have shared with me small segments, which is something that I really appreciate. But keep in mind, if you don't have a reason to listen to these people, there is no reason to listen to these people, because your viewership would encourage them to keep on going. And before you ever do, listen to that recent stream by Seth Rogers and then tell me if you should sit through that. Of course, if your mission is to find any kind of clues from Katie or Chris or anybody, yes, when we have a reason to do it, it's okay to suffer through it. But I do not for the life of me understand what's entertaining about those people, because I have listened to a few short segments and it was really disgusting. It's the only way that I can, I don't even have an understanding or why people would even go into their lives and their chats and argue with anything that's not even worth arguing with. I mean, how not busy do you have to be in order to do that? So please also be careful with people who are addicted to being a part of these kinds of conversations, because I have not been able to see as much important material in the very beginning as I do now, because on Twitter I follow too many people, and now I found a way to filter it so I see the people who are actually putting in some work and have a purpose behind listening to complete garbage. And believe me, if you listen to Seth and how he's pleading for the return of his son to the potential abductor, which Katie has never once done, you will hopefully not be able to spend any time listening to anybody just trying to smear him. There's nothing he's indicated that indicates that he has any kind of guilty knowledge. That's why I haven't listened to him for probably 10 months. Because why should I? Okay, I dismissed. Seth Rogers dismissed. There's nothing that I can get from his statements when it comes to figuring out what happened to Sebastian, because he doesn't know either. Remember now what I have shared before from one of these lives where Chris and Katie were on. They were talking about Sebastian's smell, his alleged smell. And they were making fun about how terrible it was and how he needed a lot of deodorant. And I remember that one woman on that stream talking about, oh, I have a nephew who has overactive glands, and ew, oh my god, oh, and they were just smearing him in such a nasty way. Their son, her son, and his stepson. And talking about him like he is a dog who just came home after running through a pigsty. That's how they spoke about him. So when she says, I want to smell him, you can look at her face. That's been pointed out to me, and I agree. Maybe I will make that actually the cover picture for this video. To smell him. That's when experiential memory interrupts her flow of script. Because she did not like how he smelled. She feels like this is something I should say. I should say a lot of words, a lot more than is actually expected from a grieving mother. Jeez, a grieving mother, you wouldn't expect anything from her, would you? But she expects from herself because of that guilty knowledge and because she wants to cover something up. So she says more. She feels a need to say more than she should feel. Your responsibility is your child, not the people listening, but you are worried about the speech, not coming up with an appeal to a kidnapper, anything like that. That's not your worry. Your worry is about sounding credible. And again, looking at the laughs and the duping delight, let's move on to that. I mean, I just, you see, here's a double word again, just, to be able to hear his voice, to hear his laugh, now the script, right? To, double word again. See him just be with us and be okay is like, I can't wait to see my son. I want to find him so bad. She is acting consistently, especially in certain parts. And you say, I want to find him so bad. Oh, I would like to have, I would love to be a professional tennis player so bad. That would be something said by a person who is good at tennis, but doesn't think he really has a chance. Doesn't really expect it. It's kind of a hopeful statement. I'm doing what I can to find my son. Please bring him home. Help me. Tell me where I can look. What can I do? I want to find him so bad. It's a very passive statement. I want to. So now she is again asked, they are asked what it's like for them. What has the last year been like? And again, this lady is on their side and maybe feels like they are a victim of online so-called hatred. And by the way, don't call this hatred, you people out there, when somebody asks questions about the person of interest. That's not hatred. What is done to Seth Rogers, that's hatred. That's pure hatred. And again, this is only fueled by viewership, by so many people watching and tuning in. And I don't even want to mention those people's names or the channel's names. What is it like for you guys? It's horrific, to be honest with you. Okay, there you go. And by the way, you have seen the green tattoo, right? Yeah, I've talked about this previously. It's horrific to be honest with you. Really, you need to say, to be honest with you, of course it would be horrific. It cannot be anything other than that. Why would you not be honest about that? Your child is missing, of course. And you could just say, I can't describe it. I can't. Can we stop the interview and just, please everybody, help me find my son? Not all this speech. It's horrific, to be honest with you. Please believe me that it's horrific. Well, I don't know how to describe what it feels like to watch the news. Now, what kind of news was she watching? Was it the news of when all of these bodies were being discovered? Because if Sebastian was found, she would get a phone call immediately, right? It wouldn't have to be on the news. To go hang flyers in every store, every business. Now watch this. She loves to talk about hanging flyers. In every store, every business, every place. Wow, you're doing that? That you go to. That you go to. Not that I go to. She keeps it general. Did she walk in there and there's already flyers up there? Was she hanging the flyers herself? Because I don't think there was a need for anybody for her to do that. The search, yes, participate in that. But I think from what I remember, people have been hanging up flyers like crazy. That maybe she walked in to these stores and businesses and already saw the flyers. And still find that some people don't even know about it. The triple end. The script is kicking in. Something is coming to her. And there's a difference between thinking about the script and what you need to say, and it's suddenly just coming to you and kicking in. And from what I have seen, her pattern is that when she uses words twice, or in this case 3 times, that's when her own thoughts interrupt her. And she realizes, wait a minute, there's something good. Here's what I was going to say. Still find that some people don't even know about it. Some people very few people don't know about it. Very few. Very few people do not know about this. If you said to me, most people don't know about it, yes, then I would say this can be a concern and we should change that. But she's saying some people, because I think in that area most people, what do you expect? We don't need everybody to know about this. We need the right people to know about this and the right people to take actions. And you're not one of them, Katie. You're not taking any actions. But you're talking about hanging flyers in a very general manner to let us know you're doing something. And first you say every store, every business. Wow. First thought, she's driving around all day long. Going to the banks, going to the whatever, travel agency, you name it. Hey, please hang up this. No. That you go to, very generally, that you happen to go to. Some people don't even know about it. Don't even to hear that there might be a lead and then just to sit there. Yes. Just sitting there. That's what you have been doing. Now we're getting somewhere. And have to wait. And why you have to wait? Why are you not actively look and find out that it's not him yet. What do you expect? Is that in connection with all the bodies that were found at the time? When you would see on television story after story. Do you expect his body to be found? Now this is going to be the end of that segment, of that little part, or rather quite big part, where Katie talks, and as we can see, she is getting more and more stuck. And this is only the second. Before, remember my video, the board was also full. That is all Katie talking about something that she could have said in 2 or 3 sentences. Short ones too. What do you want me to say? Please help me find my son. Sebastian, are you out there? Anybody who has him, please let him go. Let him go, just let him go, drop him off somewhere where he can find a phone, not somewhere on a freeway where he has a hard time and it's disoriented. No, somewhere where there's a phone. That's what Seth Rogers said. He's thinking practically. He's thinking about Sebastian's situation and what to do about it. None of these concerns can be found in Chris and Katie Proudfoot. Chris, you're not living the life that you thought you would live. Live the life that he deserves to have. Yeah, this is a sad reality, people. So now, what can we expect? I personally don't expect anything. I hate to tell you that. I hate to say it, but I don't expect a thing. Until Chris comes through and breaks or does something that he can be held for and then be offered a deal. But will that really happen? I don't know. She tells us she just sits there and has to wait and find out that it's not him yet. Where is the body? Is there a bulldozer involved? I don't know. I keep these things in mind. And in statement analysis, that's all we can do sometimes, that we allow ourselves to be brought on the right track and stay on there. We don't know where it's going to lead us. We cannot conclude things early, but we can dismiss a lot of things and know this track will eventually get us there, because we are all humans. Even the best liars have their weak spots. That's the beauty of it. And something can come through that will give them away. And at the end of this particular segment, Katie gets so stuck that she says, and and she looks at Chris, and Chris, by the way, is already ready to go. It doesn't take him long to immediately go into his little speech, a very short one, but Katie gets very stuck, and the last thing she wants to do is talk a lot. I think she talks a lot in her private life. Anybody that knows anything about Katie, feel free to let me know. Feel free to comment, because what is her usual pattern? How does she communicate with friends and family? Is she very talkative? Does she just sit there and sometimes rock back and forth? The more we learn about the person, the easier it becomes to pinpoint things that stand out. The easier it becomes for us to recognize a break in a regular pattern. I also have a hard time understanding Katie's language at times. Her accent does change quite significantly. She has a thick southern accent, and then she doesn't have any, like a neutral accent. And many times it's hard for me to understand her because she speaks so fast. Sentences overlap, then the grammar is often incorrect, the sentences are run-on. And so anything that you guys can help me out with, feel free to point out if there is anything that I overheard or that I missed hearing, anything that you can make out that should be paid attention to, anything, just an extra or an extra and or to or any kind of pronoun. We are going to find a way to recover from this. No, you're not. But I'm sure that this is the ongoing theme right now in your life, because it's me or him. It's you, Chris. But I don't think your life is ever going to be what you thought it could be without Sebastian in your house.